Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Jack, I'm Conrad, and this is the Footy 5. We're back with 2018-2019 version of Best Guess. This is just the table, so top six and bottom six. We're looking forward to things getting started on Friday. Unfortunately, the Premier League decided to close the transfer window this coming Thursday, and then the season starts on Friday. But teams can still lose players. They just can't go and buy them.
It doesn't make any sense because then, if you think about it, a team from, say, Spain can go buy a player from Italy in that 2-week window where Premier League teams have no chance of buying players.
Or if you lose a player, somebody comes into Spurs and buys Lloris, they're hosed.
Especially, I think Chelsea have the biggest risk of this. I mean, you know what? Hazard and Courtois both looking to be bought by foreign teams. Yes. If they get bought when they're still in the transfer window, then they're going to start losing their players.
It's not good.
It's interesting.
I doubt this will be the first and last season they do this. Is my guess.
Quite possible.
Anyhow, on to our best guesses. But before we get to this year, we're going to take a quick look at last year. This is how we had things going last year. I'm on the left here. I had City, Liverpool, United, Spurs, Chelsea, and Arsenal.
You had to clarify that you were on the left because the right is just a train wreck. I mean,
everything.
I mean, where do we start on the right?
I had the right order or the right teams, but these order was a little bit messed up.
You did very well with this one.
Can't complain.
The one thing I got correct pretty much was Everton. I got Everton woefully wrong.
Well, no, Arsenal they finished seventh.
Arsenal not being in the top
six at all.
Top four. They were sixth.
Yeah,
but it was bad. Spurs winning it all.
Maybe a little aggressive.
Hey, I mean, it's
take a risk. You take a risk.
I went for it, and it fell very short.
A little short. Yeah. It's okay. It was an opportunity for improvement.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
All right, so now this year, looking at the top six, again, it's the same six usually, but we're just rearranging deck chairs. It feels like.
Pretty much.
I've got United, which may be the biggest surprise of all. I just don't see them doing much of anything, and a lot of that is down to Jose Mourinho. I think he's beyond toxic for that side. He's arguing with everybody. He's already making excuses in the public, just saying, okay, if we don't get our transfers the way we want them, it's going to be a rough season. So he's posturing with the fans, knowing that he and Edward don't get along. He's arguing with Pogba and Martial, two of arguably their most talented players. Pogba is the biggest problem. You saw what he did for France in the World Cup. How is he going to use them? I don't understand what he can do, but I will touch on United when he comes up for you.
I have Chelsea in 6 personally. I think that, especially watching the Community Shield earlier today, his Community Shield is not going to be as high intensity. He's still getting a lot of his players in there. Jorginho is a talented guy. He's in his first game for Chelsea. But they just don't have a team that screams just talent.
There's a lot of question marks around Chelsea.
I mean, Hazard, I think if he leaves, certain in 6th place. If he's there, you still have that element of him being a different.
They're going to struggle for top 6 if they don't have Hazard.
But if Courtois ends up leaving, then I think that they are going to struggle equally as much because
he's as valuable as De Gea is for United.
100%, and they don't have an alternative to him. They have Willy Caballero, and then the goalkeeper market. They missed out on Alisson. That means that there's a very limited pool of players that they can pull from,
and it's going to be a big number,
especially in the next week. And I think that there's too many question marks. I think, for me to give them any higher.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see that happening. It was unfortunate how they treated Conte on his way out. Sarri coming in. He's got to deal with the Europa League schedule. He's not the only one who's got to deal with that as a brand new manager. Emery has to deal with that at Arsenal as well. So that Thursday, Sunday schedule is kind of a grind. And not knowing what's going to happen with Willian, Hazard, Courtois, and Morata. There's rumors around all 4 of them.
Exactly. End of the day, they have a lot of question marks, and that's not what you want in a team.
And that's why I've got them just barely in front of United. I mean, this is a 50-50 toss-up. I just think United's going to explode. I mean, they have a lot of talent, but they just don't have a plan. They don't have a style. But again, Chelsea, they're going to play a very exciting style of what Sarri's going to want them to do. Pipping Jorginho from City once they signed Sarri was a nice move by them, but that's all they've done. It's not going to be enough, I don't think. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do anything between now and Thursday to bring in people proactively just in case they lose any one of these other guys that we're talking about. Your 5th place?
I have Spurs. This is a tough one for me. I think that the big thing is you're going to see my 4th place in just a second, but it's going to be, I like there's almost a a top 2 and then 4 teams that are going to be like sitting there in those next
fighting for
those
the next
final
4 spots.
2 spots. I think that the difference for Spurs and why I don't have United potentially here is because they haven't done anything in the transfer window. They have guys that they would love to get. Like I think an Anthony Martial would be the perfect player to go play for Spurs. He would absolutely elevate. He would honestly, if Martial was to go to the Spurs in the next week,
United
it would
would.
flip United and Spurs for me because I
Yeah.
have them in 4th to
Yeah.
spoil my 4th place pick. But I think the big difference in that, which was probably my biggest toss up, was between United and Spurs in 4th and 5th,
Yeah.
who was going to get that final chance for UEFA Champions League, was that United, although they have Mourinho, who's I think going to explode. I mean, you look at the comments he's making. He went
just a
in
dour,
on the
man,
youth
God.
players. He said when Sanchez was playing, he said, I mean, how do you expect Sanchez to play well with those players
He doesn't
out there?
like any of those
He was talking to his youth players. And he's bringing the wrong attitude. United knew what they were going into when they got him, but they were
It's going
hoping maybe
bad.
he was going to change.
The game has passed him by on a lot of ways. I think.
I agree as well.
We're getting ahead of ourselves talking about United some more. I mean, but I don't disagree on Spurs. I've got them in my 4th spot. I don't know what they're doing in the transfer window. I think, between their lack of movement in the transfer window and probably having the largest hangover of all the teams from a World Cup perspective.
Every single one of their starting 11 was in the World Cup.
9 of them made it the last weekend or something like that. It was a ridiculous amount of people. So
Exactly.
they don't play their first home game until September 15th against Liverpool at the new Toilet Bowl, White Hart Lane. They don't. So they play 3 on the road and 1 at Wembley. And I think they're at United for one of those. And they have Watford and a couple of... It's not a...
Oh yeah, it's
not
daunting.
tough. I mean, it's not a cakewalk at all. And I just think they're going to struggle for the first month and a half of the season, and they're not going to be able to recover from the losses that they rack up in the beginning part of the season. Again, no more trophies. I think this may be Pochettino's last season there. I know he just signed a new 5-year deal, but there's going to be teams coming to call him for him, and I think he's going to get frustrated with the lack of movement in the transfer window. I mean, he does a great job, better than most, in terms of improving his players year on year, but there's only so much you can
I mean,
get.
assume that your predictions are spot on, and exactly what you predict happens. You could see Pochettino going to a United. I mean, United.
Absolutely.
They're not going to want to finish in 6th place.
Spurs
Mourinho
won't
could
let
be
that
out.
happen. It's going to cost a lot.
It would cost a lot to try and get
Buy him out of 4 years.
Pochettino. But I think that Spurs, they've got a lot of talent. They have Harry Kane, who's year in, year out getting near 30 goals. You always love to have a player like that. Christian Eriksen, Heung-min Son. They got some great defenders, Nalderweireld and Vertonghen.
But they're all a year older.
And they're all a year older. They have not made enough movement, I think, in the transfer window. If they make 1 or 2 moves, a lot like last year, where they did make some moves in the last couple of weeks, they have Lucas Moura, who could try and make a bigger contribution. But they still have a lot of question marks, and that's why my 5th and 6th teams is the question marks, I think. That is the big thing. And you can say question marks extend to United as well. But I think they have too much talent, I think. With the likes of Paul Pogba, Romelu Lukaku, Alexis Sanchez. Those are players that...
Mata, Rashford, Pogba, Martial. It's a ridiculous amount of talent.
Even if they don't gel together, they're going to win games off of individual
Just based on
talent.
sheer talent. Because he's not going to put a plan together.
And I think that you could look at it one way, they're going to fall down from last season where they got 81 points, which was a successful season by all accounts. But they finished
Miles
19
away.
points behind City. Issue for them, though, one thing that could look positive for them is that they did lose against all 3 of the newly promoted teams. You could look at that as you played badly in those 3 games, or you look at that as those are 3 games you can improve upon and get 9 points there that could end up taking you from 6th to potentially 4th place.
I don't see it. But, well, I mean, and it hurts me to say because you need United to play well for the league to really feel fun. And you look back to the way they played the beginning part of last season when Pogba and Matic were really playing. They were swashbuckling. It was the old the old United side.
And we said this, when things go bad, Mourinho's going to go back to what he knows best and what he feels comfortable with.
Park a bus.
And that's what led to the fans getting kind of against him, and now he's against many of the players as well.
Unfortunate, but so I've got Arsenal in 3rd place, and again, Arsenal. You're coming off 22 years with Arsene Wenger and his worst year of all 22 years. Unai Emery's coming in. He has, again, the Thursday, Sunday Europa League challenge he's going to have to deal with. But I have them... I think they're going to overperform. They're going to score a lot. Aubameyang is going to be amazing, right? I mean, they've got still a significant amount of talent. They've picked up one or two players. It's mostly on the defensive side with, Torreira is a defensive mid, and they've got Lino in between the sticks and Papastatopoulos. Say that 10 times fast. As a center back. So I think they've really done a good job at the back. Obviously, Mertesacker leaving, not like that was much of a loss, his 27 pace. But they just didn't have a lot to spend. But again, I think if you have that Aubameyang-Lacazette pairing, and if Lacazette can improve upon a lackluster campaign, I had him winning the Golden Boot last year. Bad choice. That was a stupid idea. But
I have Arsenal in third as well, and I see a lot of the same things that you do in them. I think that the big thing I think for them is the fans make up a huge reason why teams are successful and not successful. Whenever you have backing from the fans, it makes things a lot easier.
Wenger out for a long time.
And so now that you have a new manager, a lot of fans are going to be very, not low expectations, but getting top four for Arsenal, bringing them back in there would be positive, and they would love Emery for that. I think that means that there's going to be more of a positive atmosphere around Arsenal.
Yep.
You've got the likes of Mesut Ozil who's going to be able to play a number 10 role. You've got Aubameyang.
He's going to come back off of that World Cup fiasco, and I think he's going to be ignited. I think he's going to shut out of a cannon.
He's going to play sensationally this year, I think. Aubameyang and Lacazette, as well as Mkhitaryan, they have a very good attack. Torreira in midfield, I think, gives you a lot more defensive stability.
He's going to guard that back.
But there are question marks about Aaron Ramsey. I'm not 100% knowing about his contract situation, but he's rumored to be going to other Premier League teams.
Yeah.
If you lose him, then that's a I would say it's a big loss because he's
he's a glue guy. He's good in that midfield, and he does a lot more than I think he gets credit for.
I think that the big reason why I have Arsenal finishing third is that these three teams here could just be a
pick
train
a phrase: dumpster fire, train wreck. I mean, they're all of those three teams down there are. Who knows what's going to happen? And that leaves, I think, the consensus top two. We've both got Liverpool here. They spent a lot of money. They've arguably got the best keeper in the Premier League now with Alisson.
Up there with De Gea and
he's going to make a huge difference. Huge difference.
Going from Loris Karius and Sumo Mignolet, like rotating between them to Alisson, I mean, that's a big... People talk about it with United. They've been kept afloat by having David De Gea in between the sticks, him being able to save them countless numbers of points. You add those points for Liverpool with Alisson, as well as, I think, Keita and Fabinho, who, I mean, you look at the value for them. I mean, £100 million for those two midfielders combined, that's some great value. Because they're both young players, they're both under 25, and they're both players who can step in and be some of the best midfielders in the Premier League. And they're going to be able to match Klopp's style. And I think that if they sign a Pulisic or a Fekir or a center back, then it's going to be nearly a perfect window. And I think that window, it's not going to get them up to City, but it's going to put them in a spot where they're going
to be pushing City for sure.
They're going to be pushing City and be challenging for silverware. Now, again, it's entering Klopp's fourth season. If he hasn't won silverware at the end of this year, you start to look at him and say, all right, you spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be any risk on his job. Fans love him. Board, I'm assuming, loves him because he has that entertaining style of football.
And he just builds such a good camaraderie amongst the team. I mean, you contrast Sourpuss Mourinho against Klopp, and it's just a different... But he's got to get results, too.
And you look at the team, obviously the team that we haven't mentioned yet, City, the manager for them, Pep Guardiola, you look at him and Jurgen Klopp, they have more positive attitudes. They want to attack with the football. They're in this, I guess, new age of playing football. Versus, I mean, you have Mourinho, who...
Bit of a dinosaur.
The game is passing him by, yes. I think that this is possibly his last year. And, I mean, he'll probably get another managing job after this. But you wonder...
Go back to Porto. It won't be a top-tier game.
You wonder if this is his last chance. Maybe that means he's willing to change now, if it's his last chance. If he sees that... We're going back to United here, which is a bit counterintuitive. But there are going to be a lot of question marks for them. But then going back to City, I mean...
Well, when you Guardiola, Klopp, and Mourinho, all three of them are going to be without their number two coaches, like guys that have been assistants with them for a long, long time. So all three of them are going to be struggling a little bit to figure out how do I maintain that identity without my right-hand man who understands what I'm thinking before I'm able to articulate it, right? All three of them are going to have to deal with that, right? But Guardiola is... His first season was a challenge. Second season was unbelievable. And I could see them slipping off of that number one spot if they choose to look more at the Champions League match, right?
100%.
Versus the domestic league, right? If they prioritize, we're going after European silverware hard, and it's going to come at the expense of the domestic competitions or even the Premier League games. I don't know, but that wouldn't surprise me because that's a prize that he wants.
It's 100% something that could happen. I mean, City have never won that in their history. Guardiola's won it a couple of times, I believe.
Bayern, I'm
And
not sure part of that.
Liverpool,
Barca.
that means you look at Liverpool and you say, if Liverpool last year, they beat City in 3 out of the 4 times that they played them. So, I mean, you say, well, I mean, individually against Manchester City, you could argue they're a better team. And if you say Liverpool have made better improvements in the transfer window, then you say, well, maybe Liverpool are a better team than Manchester City. Can they be more consistent than Manchester City? They have to get rid of those draws against teams like West Brom. They can't lose to Swansea City. I mean, they're gone, unfortunately.
We'll get to that.
But it's going to be consistency for Liverpool that is going to be the difference maker if they're going to be able to get past City and win the title for the first time in a long time.
Until City show vulnerability, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt.
100%.
I mean, they're just so good. They are going to score a ton of goals. So are Liverpool. They're probably going to be the 2 most fun teams to watch play. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily just one another, but play anywhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, you watch either one of those teams. I mean, if you figure out a way to play Aguero and Jesus at the same time. Last year they played 3 matches together and they scored 15 goals. The team did, not just the 2 of them, but the team scored 15 goals. But that's not, Guardiola doesn't like to do that. He likes to play with the single striker, which means when we talk about who's going to win the Golden Boot, I like to see Aguero win it because I think he could do it, but I think Jesus is going to steal minutes because Guardiola's not going to want to play them together.
The thing that's for City that I think sets them over the edge is that although they were so consistent last year, they're still super young. I mean, look at like Ederson, Laporte, Stones. Walker's probably a bit older. Jesus, Sane are all under 25 years of age.
How old is Mendy? And Mendy's back and healthy.
He's under 25. I think he's 23, 24.
I mean, he and Laporte playing full season. Laporte obviously came over in January. Mendy was hurt. Mm-hmm. So you've got two guys defenders that are going to be coming in from the beginning. It's going to take some of the heat off of a very injury-prone and aging Vincent Kompany, right, who's still a leader of that team, but he's going to have to rely on him a little bit less or for different things, right? You don't necessarily want him playing your Champions League and your Premier League and your everything else. So that depth, I think, is going to help them. De Bruyne is still amongst the best players in the league, maybe second only to Salah. They only got Mahrez. Don't know what kind of impact he's going to have.
He's going to be a good rotation player. They are favorites until they show a reason not to be. I think that's the way you got to look at that.
So those are the top 6 we've got. Let's go now to the bottom 3, folks that are going to get relegated. Here was last year's guess on the bottom 3. That's why I got my Swansea jersey on. Got that one right. Everything else was Burnley. We both botched so bad. I don't know.
We had them finishing dead last. They ended up getting into Europa League.
Granted, with some funky math, but still, they finished. They're a strong top half team. I don't see that happening again this year, but I don't see also them getting relegated. I think
no. You know, they proved that they have more than
this
that.
guy. And Sean Dyche is a fantastic manager. So again, now getting into this year's bottom 3, not a surprise. Both of us have Cardiff coming in and going right back out. They've bounced back after being out for 3 years. They were out.
Yeah, 3-4 years. They were back in 2013-14 when they got relegated.
So they're the lone representative of the Welsh in the league. Swans go down, Cardiff come up.
Big thing for me is there's nobody on their team that you can look to and say, oh yeah, that's a player who could help them out.
Score a lot of goals.
They have not signed players of massive caliber, and I think they're gonna have to steal points where they can and try.
But that's how they got up in the championship. They played that very consistent. They didn't score a lot. They scored less than 70 goals. Only conceded 30. But that's not going to fly in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I don't. They get to your point.
They just don't have much going for them.
And I read something today that Warnock, he's now gotten promoted 8 times, and he's never kept a single one of those teams up. So, and he's still their manager. But they're a great story. But it's not enough to avoid the drop. Watford's been around in the top level for a while. Losing Richarlison to Everton is going to hurt them. They don't score a lot of goals. He did store, he
was a big catalyst for them.
Amount last year. He had some dry spells, a long dry spell last year. But much like anybody in the bottom 3, there's a theme here. They can't score, right? They've got a propensity to turn over managers like crazy. Javi Gracia is going to be looking over his shoulder the entire season, not knowing what's going to happen, if he's going to have a job. the talent they do have, Chalobah and Decor in midfield, is interesting. They could throw Ben Foster between the sticks, but not enough overall. Delafeu coming in for Richarlison, I don't think it's going to be enough.
I have Huddersfield Town going down as well. We had them last year going down. We're trying to get them.
Got that wrong.
Clearly trying to get them out of the Premier League for some reason. We have some vengeance against them. But I think it's a lot like with Cardiff. I think that they just don't. They lack the go-to guy who can lead them.
Who's going to bail them out?
You have Aaron Moy. He's a center mid. He's a solid player, talented guy. But other than that, there's a lot of competition. What we've seen in the last couple of years is that promoted teams getting solid in the Premier League means that you have a lot of teams like Stoke City last year going down. Not many people saw them going down because they have a lot of talent.
That was a surprise. They had a very good team. They just did not play well.
And that's what we're going to see more of, is that the teams that maybe a couple years ago would have gotten maybe even a mid-table finish are going to be going down because there's so much more talent. I think look at Wolves. Teams that are coming flying out of the Championship and getting up into the...
Wolves are really good. They could have been a Premier League team last year. They have a lot. Ruben Neves is unbelievable.
They walked to the Championship. And they are going to walk into the Premier League and be a good mid-table team, which means that you're kicking out another team that was maybe more of a staple. And that's what we're going to see, teams like Watford potentially and Huddersfield Town. Maybe they should...
I've got Huddersfield as well. I like Wagner's approach. I like his style. I like his comportment. I think he's a fantastic guy, and I think he's going to be managing somewhere else next year. I don't think he's going to stick. I mean, he did sign a new deal. I think it's a 3-year deal. But that alone does not win you football matches, and they don't have the quality. They were going into the last few games of last year. They were 1 goal in 2 different games away from dropping, and they got draws against, I think, United and Chelsea to stay up.
They snuck out last year. I think that they're going to be, with the talent coming in, there's a team that's going to be the odd one out, I think, with Wolves, because they're going to make it so that way we have Fulham staying up as well, both of us do. So that means that we're going to have 2 teams that were there last year going back down this year.
It's good to see Fulham back up there. You've got a long-time team, Newcastle, going down, which is interesting.
They were down for a little bit. They got promoted last year, stayed back up. I don't think for them, I think they're going to be a team like Stoke. They're going to be a team that's going to be, they have a lot of talent. Not a lot of talent, I would say, but they have talent where you would say that they're going to be a team that shouldn't have to worry about relegation, but they're going to because there is a lot of other teams out there that you got to play these teams every week. You got to get points against them. Newcastle, they haven't done a ton in the transfer window. There's questions over their owner. I think they're going to be the team that going to be the odd one out. I think Rafa Benitez is going to end up out.
Yeah, he's not going to stick around.
I don't think he's going to.
Well, he and Mike Ashley clearly not on the same page as it regards to their transfer policy and what they're trying to do. There's been so much conversation about this new ownership group taking over, but for whatever reason, it's not happening. I have not read about it recently. It felt like a soap opera. It was never really going anywhere. But I like Rafa Benitez. I like a lot of the pieces that they've got. I don't obviously have them going down, but
as a collective unit, they have a lot of question marks.
Just not hanging together. Yeah, they've got their set of challenges. So, all right, that's our top 6 and bottom 3 for this upcoming year. We're gonna follow this up a couple days with some looks at players, some kind of key questions, maybe a look back at last year. Do some in memoriam for our buddy Arsene Wenger. Hope he does well, whatever he chooses to do. Okay, that's it for us. Jack, Conrad, this has been the 45. Give us a like, subscribe to us. Come back to you soon. Thank you. Take care.